Okay. All right. Well, welcome to the new now. My name is Tom Matzel. For people who don't know me, my name, again, Tom Matzel in Seattle, Washington. I'm actually coming from you about an hour north in Camino Island. Just took a couple days off just to quarantine in a different space and get my headspace a little different. And what this kind of podcast conversation is about is just talking with people around the nation and actually around the world, and just seeing how they're taking advantage of this time and trying to look for silver linings, different routines, and just really want to have a fun conversation. Stay away from politics, stay away from kind of the negative talk, but just see what's going on. And today I have a great pleasure of introducing actually an old colleague of mine. We worked together years and years ago, but a true good person. And actually, we're talking about internationally. This person is coming from London, England. His name is Peter Lewis. And Pete, I don't know, what is the term, since I don't have children, how old can a newborn still be? Is it under one?
I don't know, man. It's my first one. So the little guy is 3 months and 1 week. So, it's that thing where after New Year's Eve, everyone keeps saying Happy New Year. How long does it do? I have no idea. But he's newborn. He's the first, and I might need to soften my voice a little bit because he's right next door as well. Just to let you know.
Well, the thing is, I have heard one thing. You do your child's age in months until they're 2, I believe. I think that's one thing. So you'll say like 12 or 16 months or something.
Yeah, 18 months instead of 1 year and 6. I get it. Yeah.
So good. Well, I want to thank you so much. I know you're about 8 hours ahead of us, so it's about 9 o'clock your time. So I thank you so much for this time. But I think a lot of people who are listening, friends of yours or know myself, or people who are just joining on for the first time, really would be interested of, how things are happening in the States, but also around the world. And so one of the things I'd love to do is have everyone learn a little more about yourself, how you got to what you're doing, and then maybe some of your routines, some of the silver linings you're seeing out of this, but also, how the UK and, over in Europe, how they're handling it different than we are. Are you guys spiking, unspiking? We all read the papers, but to see it firsthand where you can look out the window is probably a little better than most.
Yeah, the thing is, you look out the window, you can't see it. That's the thing. That's one of the biggest problems around it. First of all, thank you for the warm welcome. It's been a while, Tom. As you said, we used to work together. We stay in touch, but it's something like this that has actually brought us to have a conversation, like face to face over Zoom or Facebook. So that's probably one silver lining already. Little bit of background around myself then. So based in London, I am married to my wife, Karen. We've just had a baby, little Finley. He's 3 months and 1 week. And I work for Expedia Group, which maybe many people know, but the corporate side of that called Agencia. How I fell into that, really, my background has always been in education. So when I finished university, I went to Japan. My twin brother was living in Japan for a couple of years and said, come over here and teach English. And I wanted to get into teaching. So I went to Japan, taught English for about a year, English conversation, and then came back, did a TESOL certificate, which is teaching English as a secondary other language. And then actually went off to South Korea for a year and taught English out there. And then when I came back, just trying to find some regularity in what I wanted to do in my role. And it was a friend from Japan who told me about a job at Expedia. And it's been, I think, over 12 years since I joined, and I've just worked in various roles. But I would say the last 9 of those years have been in the learning and development team. So we're doing very busy at the moment, as you can imagine. We're putting a lot of virtual trainings on, lots of stuff around dealing with change, managing stress, anxiety, resiliency, how to even lead yourself through ambiguity and uncertainty, which is pretty much the situation we find ourselves in. So things are pretty good in terms of work for me. I know for others it might not be, and it's everyone's in their own bubble, but for me at the moment, work is good. Family life is good for the first 3 months. We'll see how the rest goes. And just trying to get my head around this very surreal situation that we all find ourselves in.
So you were just telling me before we started, you were very lucky, you and your wife, of how this happened. Obviously, no one's lucky that this happened, but the timing was probably a little better than it could have been if it pushed
Yeah.
back a month.
Yeah, so I think what's quite scary now, actually, on the news, it talks a lot around, obviously, they're worried about people going to the hospitals and spreading it. Sometimes they don't know if they're carriers or not. So it changes weekly, but at the moment, from what I understand, if you're an expecting father, you're not allowed to be in the hospital
Oh,
with
really?
your wife at certain times. So you're only allowed to, and I think they're slightly changing it, but the first things we were hearing, and we've had friends as well who were telling us, because they were due to give birth, that the father had to sit in like the car in a car park and wait until it was actually labor time, and then literally run in to see the baby be delivered. But then they weren't allowed to go to the ward after. I think these things are changing slightly, but Karen and we had Finley on the 25th of January.
Okay.
And then I had about 2 weeks paternity, and then I took 2 weeks holiday. So COVID was sort of starting, but I don't think anyone really thought it was going to get to the place it was now. So when I went back to work around February the 25th, I went into work maybe 2 or 3 days, just, to work in the office and grab some stuff, because I hadn't been there for a month. And then Karen just said, look, I don't want you getting on the tube and going into the office, because we've got Finley now. So I just said, can I work from home? And obviously my manager was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So we've been working from home in the nursery, which is also my office now, which is very very challenging to kind of balance the two, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But so we missed all of it. We had Finley, and now we're sort of he's kind of been born into the world of COVID, and has pretty much lived 2/3 of his life in isolation and lockdown. But I'm sure he doesn't have a clue what's going on, and
So
hopefully there won't be any.
As a new
Sorry.
father, probably
Yeah.
one is, are you sleeping yet? Or are you doing 2-hour shifts, 4-hour shifts, or
Hit and miss.
How's he doing? Okay.
Hit and miss. Yesterday was like every 2 hours he get waken up, but Karen's the one who can feed him, so Karen gets up and does that. So we try and have something where I'll change the nappy, and then Karen can feed him. But usually he's up around 5:30 a.m., which isn't too bad, and I'll get up and I'll try to do a couple of hours with him, so Karen can then get some sleep. And if that's a work day, then that works out, because now I don't need to travel into work on the tube. I actually get to spend, the first couple of hours, playing with my son, or listening to the radio, or trying to get him to sleep, and then have a quick shower, and literally in the office, 2 minutes later, this office 2 minutes later. So yeah, that's kind of how it's worked.
You've been able to have your mom over or go over and see your grandchild yet?
Yeah, so when he was first born, a lot of the midwives say, because they're prone to a lot of infections and sort of diseases, like not to have too many people, but we're a bit sort of lax around that. We just had family over as much as we could. So he got used to people holding him, which was really great. So he met my mum on my side, and then obviously Karen's parents on their side. What we're worried about now, actually, is because he's not getting any of that interaction every time. Like I'm sure everyone does it with you, FaceTime, and you just go, oh, there's there's your gran. So he's kind of getting used to it, but I don't know how it's going to affect him long term. So the good news, as you say, is they got to see him beforehand. I imagine some of the other people giving birth at this moment in time won't even get that as well. So I take everything as a blessing, really, when you start to compare what he could have been.
Yeah, and I'm as smart as everything I read, and if it's on the interwebs, it's basically, you don't know if it's true or not, but everyone's saying, it's great that we're all staying inside, but we're all washing our hands so much, but we're not getting antibodies, or germs, from touching little things normally going out and stuff. So our immune system might be going down. So I don't know what's right. I don't know what's wrong. It's just, it's a different world now for everybody.
Yeah. And the thing with us is, because we're new parents, we do what every new parents do. He coughs, we freak out.
Yeah.
He looks a different direction to when we're calling him. We Google what symptom that is. And the thing that we're finding challenging now is you can't just go to your GP or your doctors, right? We have to do something over the phone, and they kind of look in and go, yep, he looks fine. And we're like, yeah, no one's weighing him. You know, we're trying to, I suppose when you're in lockdown, you start to realize the things that you don't have that you need. So we're trying to weigh him with one of those kind of luggage scale things and this makeshift basket. And you know how it is.
Yeah.
You do it 3 times, you never get a real hit. So you try and
Yeah.
take an average. And so hopefully he's, I mean, you know, he's doing what he cries, he eats, he sleeps, he does the baby stuff, he does the nappy stuff. So hopefully he's all right.
So Pete, I know you're an old hack at this, being 3 months old. So if there are any first-time parents listening to this, do you have any hacks, any things that you've learned and said, oh, save yourself some time and some sleep, try this? And again, just your opinion.
No, man, I'm still figuring it out. I've got a twin brother, and like the thing is, I think what I would say to any new parent is everyone has an opinion. Everyone has an opinion, and you'll read things on all of these books where it will start saying, you know, by week 4 this will be happening. If it's not, don't worry about it. You know, we're not into a routine yet. Everyone has their own style. Do what works for you and your baby, really, and just enjoy it. I know it's kind of like a wedding, right? When people say, oh, you won't remember your wedding. You know, if it was really good, you won't remember it, right? Because Fred had a really good open bar. But yeah, like Karen and I were just talking today, we can't remember like when he was really small. We can't remember any of that. And we think maybe it's because of the repetition of just being in the house all the time and not being able to go out. Like all of our photos are of the same thing, the living room, the kitchen. What I would say is just try and capture as many moments as you can. And, you know, whatever you're doing is better than you think. And try not to freak out too much. Things will get back to, well, I don't think they will get back actually to normal, but things will progress and you know, the world will keep turning and life will continue and we'll figure everything out.
It'll be a new norm, you know.
Yeah.
Everything was different after World Wars. Everything was different after, you know, certain things, but it doesn't always mean it's worse. I think a lot of people get scared or have fear or they're being pessimistic. And I'm like, out of everything that negative happened, yes, we suffered, but also better things came out of it.
Right.
At least in America, when we had the housing crisis, a lot of things went down, but also other things came up, like Ubers, like other pieces came up. And I know, like you just said, your child isn't able to have that early interaction, but I'm sure there's so many benefits that you're getting, like working at home. So there are pros and cons, yin and yang's balances. They're just different balances.
There are. And I think the word new normal is interesting because, you know, your title for these shows are the new now. And I actually think that's more relevant because there is no new normal. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. What is the definition of normal? Like, is it a repetition of something becomes a certain way to then we start saying, okay, well, now this is normal. But for me, normal needs to be something that we accept is normal. And just getting into the habit of doing something because we have to doesn't become normal for me. So I think the terminology you've used is absolutely bang on. It's the new now. It's not normal. It's not going back to normal. It's just the new now. And we've got very new things coming towards all of us. And hopefully we'll all learn to adapt and live with it.
Yeah, that's true. So, you know, it is what it is. And I think the most successful people that I know are the most nimble and most open. And, you know, don't try to fight it. It's kind of like, okay, it's kind of like in your kitchen. You haven't gone shopping in a while. Well, what do I have to work with? And it's the same thing today. Okay, what do I have to work with? You can make the best of it. You and I haven't seen each other probably physically face to face in 2-3 years, maybe. Last time you were in Bellevue, probably.
Yeah.
But
I'd say that.
We can reach out this way. And, you know.
Well, last time I was in Bellevue, I nearly died on a bike hike because I was trying to keep up with you. I think I don't know, can't remember where you took us. That was hard, man. So I had a question for you is how are you keeping, because obviously you're very athletic, you like to go out and you're in outdoors and you're very active in that sense. What are you doing to keep yourself or to get that release?
Well, during different times of the year, there are different things I do. So right now, before this happened, on Wednesdays, I'd play racquetball with my brother, and Saturdays I'd play basketball, but those have been canceled. and I hike, I bike, and I do other things, and I golf a lot when it's nice. The golf courses have been shut down, so I've gone on a couple of bikes. Just got a couple friends, and we stay our distance, but you're just flying through. We've actually done e-bikes, and we've done normal bikes, and then we've also thrown on some night lamps after work. And we just did night hikes in
That's
the
cool.
snow up a couple mountains. So not mountains, but hilltops.
Yeah,
So it's something, every once in a while I will try just to do, X amount of push-ups, sit-ups, planks at my house, or just try to do runs. I'm very competitive. So when I haven't worked out in a week, I'm just like, I'll try a 2 mile, 3 mile run. And I really don't care how fast I go, but I time it. So 2 days, 3 days later, whatever it was, I just wanted to beat that and then beat it again. And I always try to like one up instead of run to the finish line. So the next day, if I did 20 push-ups, I want to do 21 or 25. And I just try different things. I think what has really happened for me is the first probably couple of weeks this happened. I have 2 restaurants and obviously my coaching
mm,
practice and everything else. That was topsy-turvy. So I was doing probably 80, 90-hour weeks with our vendors, with our landladies and land people, working with what we can and can't do. So
right.
we were very quick to change to more of a robust delivery system. Then the restaurants got totally cut down, and that's all you could do. A lot of restaurants here in Seattle, at least, I don't want to say put their head in the sand, but they just closed 100% for
Yeah,
whatever reason, because they either couldn't do the delivery or financially couldn't do it. And I get it. Everyone has their own thing that's going on. We were luckily enough with our staff and our community being very supportive, was able to do that. Probably, I think 4 or 5 days ago, we ended up closing one of the restaurants for the short term, not the long term,
right.
because for the last 45 to 47 days, we've been running with a skeleton crew, and almost everyone's been working every single day, and we're just burnt.
Yeah,
And it's kind of like, if this is going to go on for another 2, 3, 4 months, we have to replenish some people. And we thought, hey, let's close and we're not sure about the length of time, but we said, we're going to redo some things in our kitchen, put a new exhaust hood in there, retool our menus, and let everyone recharge their batteries.
right.
So that was one of the things. And then we have another location where we didn't have as many people working because it's more of a pizza delivery. So we were able to keep open still.
Yeah,
So it's one of those things that it's very interesting. I do a lot of deliveries, probably 3 to 5 days a week, and just talking to people who are just so thankful and humbled. We've been very fortunate, so we wanted to give back, and so one day a week we give to families at local schools that don't have the money or the means. So we give them free meals. We've also helped some the frontline workers, so we donate food to the hospitals. So we give them box lunches.
yeah.
And then one day in Tacoma, so that's our Seattle location, our Tacoma location, we actually worked with 7 other restaurants, and we work with all frontline workers. So they could be firemen, police officers, medics, hospital workers, and just bring them free food. So it's our way of saying thank you, because they're keeping us as safe as possible.
Yeah, no, and I saw that on your Facebook actually. I was going to ask you, so I'm glad you brought that up. It's and before we came online, we were talking a little bit around how this creates certain opportunities, like and good and bad, right? So at the moment, there's lots of bank advertisements in the UK saying just be careful, don't get scammed, because obviously there's those kind of opportunists, right? And they're coming and they're calling everyone up saying you owed this money, you owed that money, and taking the a really bad situation and trying to obviously profit from it. And then there's the other opportunity we see where people are coming together, as you said, that sense of community, and a lot of restaurants giving back like yours, which is great. And I've actually got a friend of mine, and him and his family converted their living room. They set up a charity page, and
Okay.
they tried to raise £15,000 to begin with, so they could buy, I think, 5, what was it, 5 3D printing machines.
Oh, wow.
and they started to produce PPE, plastic face visors, and obviously the headgear. And they just started shipping them across the UK to all hospitals that needed them. So, that got a little bit of transaction. It was on a Channel 4 News, which is a big news station. And now they're trying to raise 60,000. I think they've hit that target as well. And the guy, the husband actually of the family, works for a car company, and he went to his bosses and he said, look, our factories aren't open, what can we do? And they actually reopened one of their factories and are mass producing these things to get them out, obviously, to all the frontline staff. So I mean, with the NHS and all the other key workers, if it wasn't for everyone coming together and seeing how they could help in this opportunity, I think the numbers that we're seeing, not to go down that route, but the numbers that we're seeing probably a lot higher, because there's quite a lack of resources at the moment, but the public are all pulling together to support those who, as you said, are looking after us at the end of the day. So
okay, Pete, I'm going to go back to our old days of training and learning. Remember, we always said, don't expect people to know what acronyms stand for.
Okay, what did I say? NHS.
NHS. For the Americans, what does that stand for?
Excuse me, National Health Service. So it's it's our hospitals and our nurses and our doctors.
Fantastic. So actually, have you got out of the house much, or what is the vibe or the feeling around maybe people or bars open? What does the UK or London look like now?
So I mean, it was maybe about, and everything blurs now, but I think maybe 4 weeks ago they probably closed the pubs and the restaurants down, which was like really, I think, big for everyone, because especially with this kind of weather, people want to go out. Like, we don't get much sun in the UK. So when we do it, we're quite a social bunch. And since then, I think people haven't realized how serious it is. And people were still going to the parks, which was fine. There was a bit of mixed communication from obviously the authorities. They said, go out. But then they were like, but social distance. So everyone was going to the park to walk. We've got to a place now where you're only allowed out for certain reasons, right? So if it's either to go for essential food shopping, it's to exercise once a day, it's to either go and help someone who's vulnerable, it's to pick up medication, and then I think, or it's in an emergency. I believe they're the 5 things. But we're not, some of the other European countries, because I've got family in Greece, for example, they're on lockdown to the point where you have to actually text or print out a piece of paper to get confirmation to say you're allowed out. And if you're not, if you don't do that and you get stopped by the police when you're out, you actually get fined. We're not at that level yet. We still have this kind of balance where I think they just want to see how much the UK public is going to adhere to what they're saying and use common sense. So the vibes at the moment, pubs are closed, restaurants are closed unless they're giving food or it's delivery. The only real things that open are the anything that's selling food, really. So the supermarkets and the corner stores. The vibes in there are kind of strange. Some, again, it differs by week, but we have this 2-meter system. They're putting tape on the floor. It's one customer in, another customer comes out. And you should be keeping social distancing. It's not mandatory to wear face masks yet or gloves. And they're really hard to get anyway. So I've just been using bandanas around my face just to kind of, make me feel better that I'm not going to catch anything. And when I get home, we literally bleach the door handles, wipe down everything. But we can't do it too much, because when we do take our baby out for a walk, we go in the pram. And then when we get back, we can't just sanitize everything all the time. So it's a bit hit and miss. Some people keep their distance. Others just aren't aware, really. It's social distancing and social awareness don't go hand in hand with some people. So, it's not too bad.
When you and I met, we were joking. We both are having a little gray around the beards and the hair now. But when we first met, we were both young whippersnappers. You more younger than I was. But do you have any friends at work or coworkers that are younger? I mean, how's the younger generation taking this over in UK? And I mean, you've heard, at least in the States, they said alcohol sales are up 50%. I don't know about the dating apps. I don't know about the social. Some people are trying to do things. I drive by and I see people in driveways 6 foot distance, but they do the social. It's kind of like happy hour, and
Yeah.
not always drinking, just talking, but just trying different things.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm 38, so my circle of friends are all married with kids as well, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting because I would have thought that the younger generation, because they've grown up being online and social media and YouTube, TikTok, and all this other stuff, is that it wouldn't have really phased them. But actually, it's hitting them quite hard. From what I'm hearing, is they just want that social interaction, and even though you can get that over media, it's the I think it's almost being told that you're not allowed out might be causing undue stress for them, really. Alcohol sales, yeah, I mean, it's the UK. They every weekend they go up a little bit. So I'm having a little drink now because it's 9 p.m. and it's Saturday night. Why not? Hope that's okay. I didn't ask if I could, but I hope I'm okay on that.
We're
And,
allowed. You can do whatever you like.
Cool. So yeah, I'm not really seeing it too much what they're doing to keep themselves. I think what people are missing is travel. A lot of people are coming up to their holidays. They want to go and sit on the beach. They want to do those kind of things. And if they had something booked as well,
yep,
that's another lot of work and admin and stress to try and figure out if your insurance is going to cover it or not. But yeah, I can't comment on it too much. The rest of my friends, we were always on WhatsApp groups and chatting.
Yeah.
What we have found, which is because we've all got families and we live sort of spread out across London. Sure. It always took us a while to meet up. So, we'd meet up like maybe twice a year or something, which is ridiculous, really. But what we've found is we started doing things like Zoom calls and playing like online poker together to set up a private poker table.
Cool.
And yet we could have done that anyway. But for some reason, this situation has all sort of made everyone work that little bit harder to say, Saturday night, why don't we all meet, guys, put the kids down and let's just get together for an hour. So I don't know why we didn't do that before, but I think that's because we're not getting that social interaction when we go to work or we walk down the street, which we're not allowed to do anymore.
I think as we mentioned earlier, when something happens, negative or positive, something of the equal reaction happens. And It's one of these things. I remember one time when I was researching a book and looking at different things, I actually went to a retirement home, and I asked to talk to a couple of people. And I said, out of all the great things that you've done and seen in your life, what's the one thing, not regret, but what's one thing you wish you could do more? And they said, I wish I made more time for my loved ones or my friends, because we get so busy in our world, but we're in our head. We're not that busy. We prioritize, or we're lazy, or we're this, and everyone needs their own time. Don't get me wrong, but it's kind of like it's taken us 3 years to catch up. And again, we text every blue moon, but it's one of those things that I see a lot more people. I'm doing this for my family. We have people in Dublin. My sister lives in Dublin. My mom, my brothers and sisters, and some other people on the East Coast. And we have weekly happy hour Zoom calls. My mates or my buddies from grade school, we do the same thing. Every 2 weeks we get together, and there are anywhere from 9 to 10 of or 12 of us on just BSing of what's going on. And it's just good to see somebody. And I think during this time, I really enjoy this. Maybe other people, maybe I'm sick in this way, but I like to get rid. When things are really bad or you're sad, it's your true friend who's going to just mock you. And it's just like, okay, things are okay. And you just smile, and it kind of breaks the tension a little.
I know what you're saying. Like, I think the other day there was a photo of Finley and Karen, and we had downstairs, we had some DVDs up on the shelf. And my friends just totally ribbed me, as you say, like, why do you have DVDs on your shelf? Who has DVDs anymore, right? And I'm like, they're kind of like books, though, they give you something to look at, but they're now gone. They're in the attic, because obviously if you can only take one ribbon from your friends that you need to do something. But the whole thing with Zoom and FaceTime that you say, and being able to connect, I do wonder how it would be if we didn't have all of this stuff, like how much tougher it would be for everyone. So, I know a lot of people are going, oh, we can't go out and we're in lockdown, but I always try and see, again, we're in our own bubble, right? Yes. Okay. We can't go out, but at least my job or your job or anyone I know isn't going to the hospitals and having to to put our lives at risk. So just, I know it's hard to say just deal with it, because people deal with things in different ways, but find a way to deal with it, because a lot of us are in better positions than a lot of other people. So we'll
I
get
did a lunch and learn the other day for a company of about 30 individuals, and they're around the nation. And they just asked me to come on, talk about intentional mindset, behaviors, habits, but also, one of the questions was, how do I deal with stress? And one of the things I said was, why are you stressed? It's always that why question. But really, I think the most successful people, when it comes to stress, either thinks and uses their imagination, because during this time, think of the generations that had the bubonic plague, 80, 100 years ago. They had radios, they had nothing around. It's the imagination. I think what's happening now is we're forced to use our imagination because we're stuck in certain confines. But it's also the ability to be vulnerable and just saying, I'm scared, I'm unhappy, I don't know what's happening financially, or just talk to someone. And sometimes it's that vulnerability of being open and also swallowing your ego. I know a lot of people are just like having problems financially or having problems, just physically or mentally. And it's just like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Some people, I'm literally cooking, or I'm scrubbing dishes or delivering. It doesn't matter what you're doing, just to, help each other. And I think one of the things I've always learned is, if I'm in a bad place or just like sad, focus on somebody else. Because if you focus on somebody else, you can't focus on yourself. So give to somebody else, and, it kind of gets you out of that little funk. And once you get the momentum rolling, you'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. It is hard though for some people, as you say, especially with it's that bubble I say around again. So, for example, we have a small, what is considered a small house in London, a very small garden, and sometimes Karen will say, "I wish we had a bigger garden." And I'm like, "Yeah, but we have a garden, so we should just stop there, right?" Because there are people now in high-rise blocks and flats who don't have that, and they can't get out and go to the park as much as everyone else. So at least we have our little bit of fresh air. And then I saw on these programs, there's like, I don't know if I think you have like Jersey Shores and things like that. We have something called Made in Chelsea, and Karen watches that. I have to say quickly, I don't watch it. Karen watches it, and she gets to watch whatever she wants, because
but it's okay, Karen, to watch it. It's okay for everyone to watch it.
I mean, it's my guilty pleasure as well, because it's on and I get into it, because I just like TV. So I end up just going, what's going on? And then I'm into it. And they were showing, they're very affluent families, and they were showing, they can't film anymore, obviously, like a lot of these soaps, and they can't film anything anymore. And they were in this huge estate, like countryside estate, with just acres of land of country. And they're just talking about how tough it is to be in isolation. And it goes to show, like, one side of me was like, come on, you've got acres of land. You could, do a music festival there. You're not really that worse off. But then it shows you everyone really is in the same boat. Like COVID, they're saying at the moment, is the equalizer, that everyone can connect with everyone and empathize, because mentally, doesn't matter if you're in Buckingham Palace or you're in a very one bed flat. It seems to be that people just don't like to be isolated, and that fact that they can't control things. And I found that quite interesting. But still, they've got acres of land, so they're better off than us with our small 2x4 garden at the end of the day.
I think one of the things that you mentioned earlier, and I'd like to highlight this, is one of the reasons I wanted to put this together was when this first happened. Once the restaurants were taken care of, my passion and what I do is executive coaching, one-on-one coaching, and also business strategies. And I thought, how can I utilize this time? And so I just thought, hey, I know podcasts are big, and you see the Joe Rogans, I look at more of the comedian sides of things, and everyone watches a podcast of their favorite person or topics. But one of the things I thought of, hey, just talk to people about their new now, and talk about the gratitude or the silver lining. So I think you mentioned it when you talked to Karen, or not when you talked to Karen, but when you said, hey, let's just be thankful for what we have. And this is another thing I've mentioned, I want to highlight this for people, is if you feel that you're in kind of a funk, try to think of just 3 or 4 gratitudes that you have.
Yeah.
And yes, it sounds stupid when people say, "Oh, I have my health," but you know what? You have your two arms, your legs. You could sleep at night. You you have food in your refrigerator. Do the basics, and then if you want to go further than that, I have a great mother or father or sister or wife or just those little things to be thankful for, because there's so many people out there, like you said, that don't have these things. And I think, life has taught us, as you accomplish things, sometimes you get calloused. And
Mm.
this is great because it's making us look at ourselves in the mirror and saying, you know what? Quit being a piece of crap, Tom. You have a lot of great things going on.
Right.
You have your health, you have your family, you have your ability. So, you know what? Let's make the best of it and focus on other people. How can you help them that's less fortunate?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And Karen's very good at keeping me grounded, because obviously working in learning and development, similar things with coaching and growth mindset is I always try and focus on the positives, because if both of us aren't focusing on the positives, it's not going to be a good situation. But Karen always says to me at times, it's like, yeah, I know you're trying to push me to a positive place, but sometimes just let me vent, and I just want to vent, and I just want you to listen and say, you understand that it's a crappy situation.
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, her family live in Wales, and we haven't been to see them since they came down to see Finley when he was first born. So, she's really eager to go up and see her family, which is understandable. So every time I'm like, yeah, but you can still see them on Facebook, at least they're in the same country, et cetera, et cetera. But she's like, I get it, but sometimes just, just say, Karen, I understand, rather than
Empathy
trying
and
to put the
sympathy
project. I
go
know.
a
Yeah.
distance. And
Yeah.
it's okay. I have a friend who said this once. He climbed Mount Rainier with me, but he came down with Parkinson's.
Mm.
He's never said a peep about his health or anything else, but he's very upbeat all the time. But he's like, yeah, every once in a while I have a PPP. And I was like, what's that? And he's like, a personal pity party. I do it for 3 minutes or 30 seconds. And I just say my Fleeben Flarbens, get it out. Because if you don't get it out, you're just pushing it down. So
Yeah.
like, it's okay to have your moments, but just don't set up camp there.
No, we do this at work, actually. I used to do it with my old boss, and we do it with my team, and I try and do it with Karen as well. We call it similar to what you just said, right? But we call it a moan and an own. So have a moan about whatever you want, and then now own it, right? What are we going to do? Because we can't stay at that place, because if we stay at that place, it's just not good.
Good. So right now you've been in self-quarantine in your house for 40 days, 4 or 5 weeks, you think?
Yeah, I mean, the definition of quarantine for me means you're not going out at all.
Yeah.
So, I'll pop out to the shops, keep
But
my
you
distance.
haven't been to work in.
No, I've been working virtually since around probably, I'd say 1st of March, maybe.
Okay.
1st of March.
And
So
as
yeah.
we talked about the new, we're not saying normal, but when things get back to somewhat of a normal routine, sports might not be 100% normal, bars, restaurants, but what's one of the biggest things you miss? Like, is there a certain meal or a certain dish? You talked about travel. Is there something that you're just like, you know what, when this turns, I'm getting my favorite donut or whatever?
I think it's probably the family thing, right? Being able because my mum lives down the road, so being able just to pop round and help her out. And she does a really mean Sunday roast, so we're looking forward to that for sure. But nothing too much. I'm very content with what I've got. I suppose if I had to pick something, if you're gonna, like you said, around a donut, it'd probably be a banana milkshake from McDonald's. The ones that are so thick that you can't even.
I think, well, obviously everything's different. You go to Japan, they have different things too, but
Yeah,
we don't. I think we just have chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. But yeah, banana's a different one.
Yeah, you can get. Or maybe it's not banana. It's been a while since I've been there. I have to say, it's
They
probably
have
vanilla.
shamrock. I know during the during certain times, like St. Patty's Day, and who knows what they have for Cinco de Mayo and stuff like that.
But interestingly enough, actually, because we're going to the shop more and we're at home, we're actually eating a lot better, because we're able to buy a lot more veg and actually eat it. Where in the past, it was hard to do that. Come back from work, you'd be tired, and you'd just cook something quick and then go to bed. So we're actually eating a lot more healthier now, which is strange. Also snacking a lot more, which is not good. Right, the fridge is down the road or down the corner.
So for you, any like young first time parents or people who are working virtual or anything else, any recommendations that you'd say, any books that you're into, Netflix, anything that you're doing? You're probably watching a lot of, and I don't know what young children watch these days, what the new Disney or whatever flicks are out.
Yeah, I'm a, even regardless of COVID, I haven't got time to watch anything, right? So I need to finish off things on Netflix. Stranger Things, we need to finish that off. There's a second season of something called Killing Eve, which I think you guys have in America as well. If not, check it out. It's on BBC. It's really great. And I need to finish off Game of Thrones. So I'm on the last season. So I got a few things to finish off. Reading, I'm in that kind of era now where I haven't really started a good book, and I just read a lot of quick LinkedIn articles or Harvard Business Review articles and things like that. So TV, if I get time to watch it, it's usually whatever's on the channel there. So I can't recommend. I think
one of the things that I've done is probably over the last 4 or 5 weeks, I've been out working so much. When I get home 9, 10, 11, whatever time, I just want to decompress. And for me, back in the day, it used to be watch ESPN, catch up on my sports, watch a little news for 15, 20 minutes, and then catch up on sports, decompress, go to bed. And obviously that's not around. So really I got into, and I remember, what was his name? There was a guy who worked at Expedia. He was younger, like 23, that took one of our, 1 week classes. And I asked him, I was like, what do you watch? And he's like, I watch YouTube. And this was like 10 years ago or 8 years ago, whatever. I was like, why would you watch YouTube? And he's like, I watch all of it. And so literally I'll go in there and I'll type in someone's name and I'll go down a rabbit hole. But, you can watch 15 or 5-minute segments and you just, so you learn so much or you get so much experience. And so, that's what I end up doing is going on YouTube for 35 minutes, an hour, and just,
I do. And now you said it, I do it. So usually when Karen goes to sleep or Finley falls asleep in my arms, can't really have the TV on. So you grab your phone, which is probably not the best thing to do. But get on YouTube or even Facebook, and there's just loads of little mini videos out there which just keep my attention long enough. But also if I miss it, I'm not going to be like, I missed it, like, a plot of a film. So you're right.
Okay, I'll make a deal with you. You tell me one embarrassing rabbit hole that you went down, and I'll tell you one that I went down.
You go first. Give me some time to think about that.
Okay, so the reference, I don't know if you'll get, but I don't know how I got down this. But, you put in somebody's name and then other people's names like this,
Right.
And all of a sudden, why can't I think of his real name? David Cassidy. He was the Partridge Family. It was probably early 70s, so you might not be familiar with it. But he was a teen bopper crush. But I mean, for my sister, I remember my sister liked him, but it was the first show that I remember watching when I lived in New York at that time. That was kind of like a show. And then I was just like, comedy, and I was watching something else. But then later in life, I've heard the horror that happened to him. He became a teen idol, but, amped him up with drugs, outworked him and stuff. And so I was watching different podcasts and his name came up and it was like a 30-minute, find the true story about David Cassidy. And so I just watched that. And there was a lot of things that I didn't know. His stage mom in the TV show was actually his real life stepmom. And they would have him work Monday through Friday and then have him go to shows Friday, Saturday, Sunday without sleep, giving him drugs. And then he lost everything at 19. And just, it's this story, too much too soon, you lose it all. And I was just like, it was kind of interesting, kind of sad. But, that was my thing that's kind of off the beaten path for me.
Yeah. Sounds like an interesting documentary. See, mine I don't think I'm going to top that. Mine, again, because I'm on Facebook, because you don't type anything in, but the videos go. I suppose what I could share is sometimes I don't scroll past it and I'll just watch what it is. There's all these handy craft things on there sometimes where they show you how to make things around the house. Probably the worst one I've just continued to watch because it doesn't interest me, but I'm just so brain dead. I want to see it. It's nail polish art. They show you how to do all of these cool things
Oh,
on
okay.
nail
Yeah.
polish, and it's there for 20 minutes, and then
Yeah.
I could scroll, but I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna
How
watch
do
it.
they do that? Do they have like little stencils or like the spray paint? Not spray paint, but I don't know. They
Yeah,
have
they
like,
do. They do these weird things where you know, like sometimes they'll put like little bits of tape, and then they'll color it in different, and then pulls the tape off, or
yeah.
they'll use things around the house to kind of create little semicircles or things like that. Obviously, I learned a little bit around it, which I'm not embarrassed to say. Learning's learning.
No,
But,
I mean, you learn all these different things that I
yeah,
don't learn about. And there are things that I never thought about, but I respect so many more people that, you know, do home remedies, you know,
mm,
and they figure out, oh, how to get the calcium off your pipes by just doing the vinegar and the baking
yeah,
soda and stuff. You're like, holy crap, you know, or to, you know, just these little things. I'm just like, wow, I'm not as handy as I thought I was, which I'm the first one to raise my hand. I'm not handy, but you learn these things
you
of
do.
how you can do this, how you do that.
Well, when COVID first started, you know, everyone was like, you know, is this thing gonna last? And everyone was talking about Armageddon style zombie movie kind of things. So I just started watching loads of, you know, how to start fires and you know,
Yeah.
all the kind of survival things that we have no idea what to do, because a lot of us just aren't reliant on that anymore. We're so dependent on technology and everything else doing everything for us, that even going back to the basics, it's just interesting skill to know, right?
Yeah. So
No time to use it, but
no, it's good to learn these things. I've really respected like YouTube. I never thought it was a big deal, but now it's like my nephew is just like, hey, do you know how to do this? And I was just like, yeah, Jack, I can explain this to you, but go to YouTube. You
yeah,
know, what about change my oil? What about this? Okay, I'm not there. Just YouTube it real quick. My
yeah,
girlfriend, anyone, I'm just like, hey, try it. YouTube it first. It's kind of like at least my generation, my parents. Hey, mom, dad, how do you spell this? Go look it up in a dictionary, and you'd have to look it up.
yeah.
You'd
That makes
hopefully
sense.
learn that way.
Yeah, like my shower broke the other day, and I was like, oh, I don't want someone to come into the house, and Karen doesn't want someone to come in the house. We're like, how are we going to deal with this? So I just went on YouTube and typed in obviously the make of the pump, and you know, troubleshooting, and then it said try these 2-3 things, and I tried them, and the shower's working again. So you know, that probably puts a lot of plumbers probably losing a bit of business, but you know,
Yeah, but for everyone like you, there's probably 2 or 3 that probably break it
to
even
call them
worse.
up.
So.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I think that's a great thing. I think a lot of people are going to come out with expanded jolly waistlines, but I
Mm,
think also a lot of people are trying new things. I see all these challenges happening. You know, people are sharing their favorite albums, LPs, or vinyl or tapes. I'm seeing people doing these yoga challenges. I'm seeing people doing stuff with their children. So I think it's a great time that, you know, people are going to look back in a year or even 6 months or whatever the time period is. And I know people are going to say, maybe not out loud, but I kind of miss COVID. You know, I will
right,
say it.
right.
I get to work in 20 minutes where some days it takes me 55, 60 minutes. So there are certain things I will miss.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Are you guys doing any? So every Thursday here for the NHS, which I'll test you on.
Okay.
What does
National Health
NHS?
Service.
Yeah, cool. Every Thursday, everyone comes out on the streets and they clap or they bang pots to show sort of recognition for them at 8 p.m. Are you guys doing something like that over there as well?
Where I live in Seattle, or I live in Bellevue, just on the other side of the bridge, we are not doing that where I live, but I have seen certain cities, New York, certain, you know, other areas do it. I've actually seen some friends that live over in West Seattle where people come out on their porch, 7 o'clock, whatever time
Mm,
period, and 1 or 2 people sing, and they have an amphitheater or a speaker, and, you know, people just come out and socially just sit on their porch and just have conversations. So there are things going on, not directly where I'm at, but there are recognitions or getting to meet your neighbor. And I'll be
well,
honest with
yeah,
you, I don't know about you, but when I lived in Arizona, everyone, you'd pull your car right in your garage and you'd see your neighbor every once in a while, but it wasn't like when I lived in New York, you were best friends with your neighbors because you didn't have the TV, the internet and stuff. And all of a sudden it makes you just, you know, talk to your neighbor. Hey, how you doing? Do you need anything? Do you want me to pick something up from the store? Da, 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 da.
exactly. Yeah, and this is it. This is what we're seeing. We live on a street which probably has about 15 houses either side, so 30 houses on the street, small street as well. And just coming out, seeing people and saying hi, like each week more and more people come out, and we take Finley out as well, and people are like, oh, we didn't know you had a baby, and we start chatting, obviously keeping distance, we start chatting. And I think after this, whenever we can probably all get together and just say hi again, it's probably brought a lot of people together. But on the other side, so when we go for a walk in the park and we take the pram, it's a communal park, so there's lots of dog walkers, lots of joggers. And what's funny is the joggers will walk past, will jog past, obviously, and we'll step out the way for them, or they'll step out the way for us. And they say thank you, and I'm appreciative of saying thank you, but they're also huffing and puffing as they're running past and saying thank you. So you kind of you get this thing now where everyone's a little bit more considerate to each other and actually acknowledging each other's space and saying thank you for moving out the way. But they're also then, talking at you, and you don't really want that. So it's kind of a bit of a double-edged sword, which is quite weird, right? They're being nice, but in the way of being nice, they're also putting you at risk when they talk to you with obviously the whole.
I noticed. I just got back from the grocery store a little while ago, and the one thing I'm noticing is, probably 8 years ago, I remember taking my nephew, and we do carpools, to school. So I take my nephew and some other people, and they'd be sitting in the back seat. I'm driving, not a peep, but they're laughing because they're just texting back and forth. And now I'm in the stores, and I don't see people looking at their phones. People are just being conscious, maybe conscious of their surroundings, but people acknowledge other people, say hello, excuse me, And again, the silver lining that I'm taking or choosing to focus in on is people are being more conscious of other people and also of what they're doing and how they're portraying themselves out there.
Yeah, and it's that, like I said, it makes everyone equal COVID to the point where you're walking down the street and you don't know someone, but if you look at someone and you connect with the eyes, everyone's just it's just a quick head nod, even though you've never met that person. I think everyone knows the same situation. Like, this is crazy, eh? Yeah, and on your way. It's going to be interesting when things start to, as we said, not get back to new normal. As things start to, lockdown starts to get released and we can start doing things which were considered normal back then.
Yeah.
How we will start interacting with each other, because everyone's helping each other now. Everyone's nice now. I get this feeling that, as you said, 6 months, 12 months from now, when everything's okay and we're back on the tube again, everyone's elbowing each other and people aren't considerate again, and humanity comes back, if that makes sense, what it used to be. I hope it doesn't. I hope
Here's the one thing I've learned, and we say this, and it's a cliche, but only worry about the things you can control in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I know after 9/11, and I went down to Florida, and a lot of people there were more retired, and you had literally everyone on the street flying their flags, and it was so patriotic, and everyone was caring. And then over time, it kind of went away. But what happens is there's still 10% of people who kind of are like, okay, I'm going to embrace this. And it's up to you to say, okay, when you get back to work, are you going to still play online poker with your buddies? Are you going to, so it's, people always say, well, everyone's doing this. I'm like, okay, let's not worry about everyone. What about you? What about me? What am I doing that's different? And, if it's important to you, it goes down to discipline and what am I willing to give up to do that? Maybe I don't watch ESPN anymore, and I don't care. It's kind of like SNL, Saturday Night Live. I used to watch all the time religiously when I was young. Now on Mondays, I just watch the 2-minute clips of the funniest things, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah, you're right. Again, it's choices and focusing on what you can control. Absolutely right.
Did they say anything in the state of Washington? Our governor just kind of didn't mandate, but just came out with a
May 31st
press conference yesterday that we are staying kind of in isolation for another month. So people weren't sure if it was going to happen this week, next week, or when it's going to. They kind of talked about a 4-phase plan about some construction, certain things, then phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, depending on how fast we get a vaccine, how things flatten out, the weather. There's a lot of different variables, but it sounds like we're probably in quarantine. Again, the state of Washington, probably for another month, unless something else comes about.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I try not to watch the news that much because it's so repetitive. It's the same thing, and half the time, every time they make a decision where there's some certainty, it creates several other uncertainties around what does that mean and more questions. So I believe we're probably in lockdown for another 3 weeks, probably the month of May as well. Absolutely. But even if they said we weren't in lockdown, I don't think I'm going to be going back straight away and rushing to the office. I'm going to want to make sure everything is sort of in a place where I feel comfortable when I go out and then come home. What am I bringing home to Finley and Karen? So it's going to be a lot for me anyway. It's going to be a long journey. I've already accepted that, this is my office for the foreseeable future, and I'm okay with that, and I'll make it work. Though I am on a dining room table, which is cracking, and next to me, I use the windowsill and a heater for my.
Get on a YouTube and figure out how to reinforce that table.
I should. Right, I should totally. I thought when I have a baby and I'm going to have 4 weeks off for paternity and holiday, I made a snag it list of all the DIY things I wanted to do around the house. I was like, oh, it's going to be easy. I'll be there, but. Oh my God, literally, there's just no time to do anything. You're looking after a little person, making sure they're alive. So, I remember when you said, what are you watching on Netflix? I could have just probably shut this call on you straight away and said nothing, because you don't have any time to do anything other than let the little guy make sure he's breathing, make sure Karen gets some rest as well, trying to do your job. There are other people who've got 2 kids at the moment who've got twins, who are newborns as well. So, I'm not looking for violins or anything like that. It's hard though. It's being a parent is hard.
So right now I'm looking, and we've almost gotten an hour. So I want to be conscious of your time.
Yeah,
you have a newborn and stuff. But here's a fact: going on YouTube and going down different things. I think I was watching a Joe Rogan podcast, and Joe Rogan's very interesting because he has comedians, MMA fighters, but he also has physicists, doctors, and everything else. I'm going to butcher the statistics, so nobody please write down on the comments, you're totally wrong. But it was one of these things that it shocked me that someone said, the chances of you being born is like 1 out of 14 billion or trillion. It's just, statistics of the sperm, the egg, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, So one of the things I want to do for everyone listening and for yourself and myself, let's do something special for our moms for Mom's Day, because the percentage of us being together and just being born and for what our moms did, let's show that gratitude and focus. And Karen's a brand new mom, so maybe you're going to have to do double duty, because I don't know if Finley has the motor skills yet, but just let's look forward to some things. And I think that's one thing I've learned. When my Nana was older, my Nana passed at 96, my great aunt passed at 96, my mom's getting to be early 80s. I've always asked the older generation, I said, what's the one thing you've learned the most? What's the one thing that has made the biggest difference in your life and everything else? And for my Nana, it was the airplane, because you weren't able to travel. When we moved from New York to Washington, she's like, I could see you in 5 hours. Back in the day, you couldn't do that. For my mama's computer, she was a nurse, and now you can do all your records on there. For us, it's probably the internet, or at least for me, I would say internet. But I think get back to the basics, and that's mother, and thank her, and then Father's Day. I don't want to forget fathers, but just something to look for. So I think it's May 10th, I believe. So
we've already had ours in the UK. We've had it. It was like last. What is it? What are we in now? It was March something. I can't remember. But we've already had it. So yeah, we have it differently.
We have to have another war to get you back on our page.
It's a good reason to have one, if to get everything organized.
I didn't know you were a different time.
But no, I got Karen a card. Well, Finley got Karen a card, and it said, "Happy Mother's Day. Thanks for wiping my bum." I thought that was quite funny.
It is. So maybe for the American Mother's Day on May 10th, you do something. And when is Mother's Day from the UK? And I'll do Mother's Day next year for my mom.
I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to Google that really quick. Give me a second. Oh, Mother's Day.
When is Father's Day? Is it in June?
You're right. So 14th of March is Mother's Day in the UK.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And Father's Day is the 21st of June.
Okay. All right.
Technology. Look at that. Who needs Who needs trainers when you've got Google?
Well, good. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time. Personally, just to catch up with you, it was great seeing you and catching up with you and talk to you. But I think a lot of people just want to hear from different people. I've been very lucky and fortunate to talk to people in Washington, in Arizona, in Iowa, in New York, people who are athletes in college, people who are retired, people in the medical field, people in the UK. Just to hear this conversation, I'm sure a lot of people heard this conversation and it's more of a personal thing. But I think there is silver linings that you can get out of hearing. And one of the things I like to do, as we're both trainers, we talk more, but I've really tried to purposely listen more to people because I think I get more out of it because I'm like, okay, I see that person's perspective. I hear what they're saying. And hopefully someone has got something out of this or a different conversation that we've had on the New Now. And if anyone has any recommendations or would like to join on or knows somebody that's great, please DM me or reach out to me. And if Pete, anyone wants to reach out to you, I will take the DM and push it on to you. But
Sure,
before we go, is there any other routines, recommendations, silver linings that you'd like to push out to other people or saying, something good? Or is there something going on in your life that you'd like to promote? Like you said, your friend is doing the mask. Is there maybe a website you'd like to promote or talk about? We've had people talk about pet rescues, about their personal stuff.
Yes, I'd probably try and promote their website because it's going to help a lot more other people. It's a Just Giving page. They're called the Grilly Family. But if you go and look at my Facebook or LinkedIn, I don't post much. So most of my recent posts will be about that. And even if it's, you can't donate anything, just go and see what's going on and what they're doing. I think it's a good inspiration for many people out there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. You get a good night's sleep, and let's not make it another 3 years before we see each other. And then would you ever come over to Seattle now, to the new campus?
I'm not too sure. I've got a team member over there, but at the moment things kind of run virtually, the world we live in. But I was going to
through the UK. I went there a little while ago and saw my sister in Dublin and go to Spain and stuff. So
let me know next time you're down, definitely. And I just heard your phone ringing, so it might be your mum. So go get it, because if you miss it, you're in trouble.
I will. Thanks so much for your time. You be well. We'll talk soon.
You too. Stay safe. Okay, see you, Tom. Bye-bye.